using certain mechanism, they're changing your password. It could be through the secret questions. Most of the system do not have the secret question today. It could be that your phone is lost and it had a two-factor authentication, and somebody says that I forgot the adversary or the attacker who has the phone. He goes and tries the forgot password option. The SMS goes to his the device because he's owning your device. He changes your password. So that's where tampering is happening. Uh, Suppose that there is a database, and in the database, it's a student database, and it is containing the marks of a student, and a student goes ahead and modifies his marks from 40 to 90. That's where integrity is getting impacted, right? Coming to availability, this is more about system being available, the resource or the software that you're using being available. So the database example that I gave, somebody kind of goes and corrupts the database itself because he's an end user and there were not enough protection. He or she corrupts the database, and then the database becomes unusable. The whole data is lost, so availability gets impacted. New e-commerce website which is trying to establish itself, that goes through a DOS, denial of service attack, uh, and it is not available. So that's where availability gets impacted. So this is a brief on CIA. Access control framework, AAA. A stands for authentication, the second one stands for authorization, and the third A stands for accounting. Authentication is all about verifying the identity of the user, right? Who you are, that's all about authentication. Authorization is that, okay, you are XYZ, but what privileges, what permission you have, right? An example could be that, I mean, you going to say board a plane, right? There could be different privileges and entitlement in a plane also, whether you're traveling in economic class, whether you're traveling in business class, right? Whether you are a pilot, whether you are a crew member, all those would be defined based on who you are and what rights you have been allocated, right? So based on the ticket or the ID card that you present, right, you would be allowed those privileges. Just because I'm traveling in the plane and I have a ticket doesn't mean that I can fly it, or doesn't mean that I can go and sit in the business class or first class, right? So that's what is all about authorization, what permission, what privileges, what entitlement that you have. So these are some of the verbs pertaining to authorization. Coming to accounting, accounting is more about monitoring and logging all the events and actions that are happening. I book a economic class ticket and go ahead and complain to the airline that no, I booked a business class. So they should be able to kind of show the all the activity while booking I did and show me the payment details that I made and provide the information that you didn't book that out. Other example could be that I'm a server admin, right? And I go ahead and delete a database and say that I didn't delete it out. So that's more of a reputation thing, that I'm denying or refuting that I did something. But if there is not ample accounting in place, logging and monitoring is not there, then the accounting is kind of getting compromised or impacted, right? So accounting is more of logging, monitoring, and ensuring that you have the right set of information to see what really happened when some incident occurs. Principle of least privileges. Needless to say that it is important to ensure that you are following that out as part of anything and everything that is allowed. Maintaining different roles and privileges is important. Role-based access, RBAC, RBAC, is a popularly used across the enterprises to kind of define different privilege level that an user should have or an employee should have, right? Uh, the server admins may be part of different group, whereas as an employee, I might not have access to view the server admin LDAP group or the distribution list that they have, right? I would not have permission to add anybody else, whereas somebody who's owning a LDAP group, he or she would be able to add somebody. So the basic recommendation from principle of least privileges: give as less permission as possible. That is enough for somebody to do their job, right? So as a student, if I go to a library and they have a library management software, suppose that I'm going to an online library, then if I'm able to gain the role of librarian, because there are certain hidden features that are available, and tweaking around with them or tampering around with them, I'm able to gain the role of librarian. That means that principle of least privilege was not properly enforced. So this is a quick refresher on some of the topics that we covered last time. Not all of them, but I'll start with today's topics that we have. The first thing that I want to bring up for you people is Stride model, right? This is for variety of threats and their classification. So spoofing of user identity, that's what is S stands for. STRIDE is an acronym. S stands for spoofing, T stands for tampering, R stands for repudiation, I for information disclosure, D for denial of service, and E for elevation of privileges, right? So spoofing of user identity, the prime example could be that I picking up my friend's identity card, right, uh, and trying to enter his office, right? So the office door barely has an access card, right? So suppose that he's my room partner, I pick up his ID card and go inside his office, and nobody's able to catch me. So that's more of a spoofing of user identity. It could be on the Aadhaar database that somehow I'm able to do authenticate bypass the biometric authentication, portraying as any of you or somebody portraying or taking away my identity, right? So that's where that could be spoofing of user identity. Another example of spoofing of user identity could be that on Facebook, I pick up any of your pictures, any of your profile pictures that you have, and if you do not have ample privacy settings, I can kind of download all your picture, create a new profile with your name, with your pictures, most of your details that I already know, and start adding all the friends that you have already have in your friend list, right? So I'm spoofing, mimicking, mocking your identity because I somehow managed to gain hold of your pictures, and it would be difficult for other people, to your friends, to understand I'm not you, right? As part of a chat message, I can send to them that, hey, my older profile is hacked, this is my new profile, let's please add me, right? And later I can say that, hey, I need some money, can you transfer it out? I can reach out to 100 of your friends who have added me, right? Out of that, even if 4 or 5 are transferring the money to me, it's a good money and easy money for me. So that's all about spoofing. Remember, it is mimicking, mocking somebody else's identity, behaving as somebody else. That's what is whole essence of spoofing. T is about tampering. So it's more of modification or the integrity part that we were discussing earlier, right? So I have my own identity card, right? And it has certain access code, right? Or like using my identity card, what I do, I create a new ID card by tampering some of the data that I had internally, modifying that out. So that's where the tampering will come into picture. Tampering is more to do with the modification or unauthorized unauthorized uh, modification of the data, right? So that's where the tampering will come into picture. Let me see if I can give a better example for tampering. As part of a user field, username and password are required, right? And instead of you entering a username and password, I provide a SQL injection payload. So that way there I'm tampering with the data, I'm modifying the data, and if there is not enough validation, then finally the SQL injection would be successful and I can get more intended details, right? A malware trying to tamper image, right? So that could be tampering, right? You have an image and the malware modifies it, kind of trying to hide something, hide some data, right? That could be tampering. More of somebody going ahead and modifying their marks in the database of their board exams, right? And that could be an example of tampering. Feel free to ask questions at any point in time, because we can take questions whenever the concepts are not clear, and I can take a pause and explain that to you. So you can unmute yourself and bring some question. If those questions are not pertaining to current topic, then we can answer them later. R stands for repudiation. So repudiation, what exactly it means? It's little confusing term, so I'll request you people to pay attention to that. Repudiation is all about having the ability to prove that somebody who did something is not able to refute that they did it out. So more to do with the logging and monitoring, right? That I have an antivirus solution which is protecting my office laptop. I go ahead and turn it off, and then my machine gets infected with the virus. And I say that, hey, antivirus was not working on my machine. Antivirus software should have ample logging and monitoring to prove that it was me who turned it off, didn't let it work, right? And that's where the repudiation got him. The repudiation comes into picture. So non-repudiation is the ability of any system to prove that some action was taken by some entity or an user. That's all about non-repudiation. Repudiation is opposite of that, that somebody is able to do things without getting caught, right? Somebody hacked into your machine and there is no logging and monitoring, and you really do not know how things happen. I go to a SharePoint or a shared location where files are kept. I simply go Control A, delete everything, and nobody is able to prove that who deleted them out. It is completely clueless, and I keep doing week over week to frustrate people, right? So that's where repudiation uh, uh, comes into picture, right? And having non-repudiation checks to kind of monitor all the activities will ensure that repudiation threat doesn't occur. So spoofing, tampering, repudiation. Next one is information disclosure. That's more of a divulging some sensitive information. It could be that you browse to a website and the website is down, and it says that, hey, website is down uh, due to certain errors that happened. Log in as a administrator using these credential, and it leaks out the login and credentials. So that's information disclosure. You go and check the source code of a web page, and in the source code you can see that there are comments that developers have left, that password for backend system is XYZ. So that's again information disclosure. Right. So that's some of the example on information disclosure. Denial of service is more on the availability side, right? Uh, Service going down, that could be a denial of service attack. A malware coming into my system and finding a way to turn off the antivirus software, that's a denial of service attack, right? Availability of the system or performance degrading, so that instead of 10,000 users, only 100 users are able to browse to a given website. Denial of service, because the availability has drastically reduced from 100% to, you can say, it's barely 1%. Elevation of privileges, right? So you have certain level of access on a system, but you find a way to elevate yourself as an administrator or gain higher privileges than you are allowed by doing certain things or taking certain action. So the library management software example that we took earlier, right? As part of that, uh, a student who logs into the library management system and he finds a way via which he can gain a privilege of a librarian or the administrator, then the elevation of privilege happens, right? I have a lot of processes running on my system. uh, they are running with different privileges. A lot of them would be running with a user privilege. One of them is able to elevate its permission. Suppose that there is a malware which is running with a low privilege, but finding a vulnerability, it is able to elevate itself as a system or administrator. That's where elevation of privilege comes into picture. Okay, so some description of each of the field. I'll just quickly run through them. Pretending to be like a genuine trusted process or an user. DLL hijack, where a malicious DLL acts like a genuine one, right? So in DLL hijack attack, what happens that when you are running a process, say or a executable or a installer. Let's say you're running firefox.exe installer, and firefox.exe installer is looking for install.dll. And when you run firefox.exe, it loads install.dll at the same time. The install.dll gets replaced by a malicious DLL, and firefox.exe, let's take a hypothetical example that it doesn't have ample integrity check, it ends up loading that out. So that's where, again, install.dll that was malicious, not a genuine one, was kind of spoofing the identity of the install.dll. So that's another example from the client side security assessment. Tampering is manipulating information stored in cookie, URL parameters, etc. to gain authorized access to data or a system. It could be modification of data just for fun also, or just to annoy people. That's where tampering comes into picture. Repudiation is the ability to prove or disprove that something happened. I didn't delete the file, right? So that's repudiation. Information disclosure is leakage of sensitive data, user credential from database, sensitive details in stack trace. Denial of service is to make a machine or network resource unavailable to its intended users. Crashing an application or a website, right? So that's a definition of denial of service. Elevation of privileges, gaining higher privileges from a lower one, allowing a remote user to run commands, right? So that's more of a elevation of privileges. So people typically do not catch the repudiation concept, but yeah, it's more to be able to prove that somebody did something, right? That ability, if it is present, then it's called non-repudiation. If it is not present, then repudiation becomes a threat. So this is all about STRIDE, STRIDE, and it's an acronym: spoofing, tampering, repudiation, information disclosure, denial of service, elevation of privilege. So we have some quiz question on this. I hope you people will remember this out. So that those all would be coming in sometime. All email sent to you by eavesdropping communication in communication. An attacker, and you don't know the received message was modified, right? So that's where tampering is coming into picture. An attacker forces a website to shut down by sending million requests that overwhelm the server. So this is denial of service, right? The first one is information disclosure. The second one is tampering, because it is secrecy is not there. An attacker logs into a website using your account by successfully guessing your login credentials, right? So attacker pretends to be the authentic user. So it is impersonation. This is spoofing. The fourth one is spoofing. You enter a server room without permission, right? So you are elevating your privileges. So a user does an action without sufficient privilege, elevation of privilege attack. You transfer $1,000 to another account using net banking application, but later you deny to bank transferring the fund. Repudiation comes into picture, right? So these are some of the jumbled examples that you see to make you more familiar with the concept. The first one is more of an information disclosure, where somebody is able to read mail sent to you, right? The second one is modification, tampering, right? Alteration of the message. An attacker forces website to shut down, so that's denial of service attack, right? An attacker logs into a website using your account, impersonation, so that's more of a spoofing. You enter a server room without permission, that's elevation of privilege, because you didn't have privilege to enter the server room. You transfer $1,000 to another account and deny you transferred it out, so that's more of a repudiation problem. Okay, now we'll move to the risk evaluation, right? What is risk evaluation? Now, when you do a security assessment, you run the whole application security assessment, network security assessment, SOC, incident response. You kind of find a vulnerability, right? Now, fixing each vulnerability requires resources. Which one to fix first, which one to fix later, that becomes critical, because our resource is a constraint everywhere, right? We do not have infinite number of resources. So without this knowledge, you might end up spending too much time in protecting against an attack that will never happen, right? So if you're not prioritizing, if you're just taking a cue that whatever gets reported first, let me fix that first, right? And it might be that that is not that critical, right? So there is quite a need to prioritize vulnerability, and two critical factors that majorly influences the priority are how likely is that attack uh, going to happen, and what is the impact of that attack, right? So these are two critical factors: likelihood of something going wrong, right, or a vulnerability getting exploited, and the impact from that, how big is the damage that takes place. Now, both likelihood and impact are themselves influenced by other sub factors, such as frequency. How frequently can it happen? Okay, right? So it's quite impactful, but it is very likely to happen, but it can happen only on 29 February. Let's take an example. So that happens once in 4 years, right? So suppose that you are living in a leap year and you have already crossed 29 February, the next attack can happen only in 29 February after 4 years, right? So again, that also will become a factor. It's a hypothetical example. I'm just giving examples on frequency. Then asset value, right? Whatever is the asset, the likelihood and impact is quite there, but the whole value of the asset is not that big. You can decommission it or you can shut down that system also. So again, the value, what we are trying to protect, is also important. What are the other security measures that can potentially prevent the likelihood or the impact? What are the environmental context? So several, whether it could happen internally, externally, whether it can happen through internet or only internal employees can do the damage. All those factors will come into picture. Now, the next thing that I want you people to understand is threat versus vulnerability versus exploit versus risk, right? These are some of the key terminologies people often get confused. So threat refers to circumstances or events with the potential to cause harm by way of their outcome. Threat itself is not a vulnerability till you kind of analyze a weakness in the system. So it is more of a circumstances. Threat is a likelihood, it is a potential that something could go wrong. I'm going on a bike, and the threat is that accident may occur, right? It's not confirmed that it has occurred. I'm, say, sitting under a fan, and the threat is that the fan may fall down, right? So that's potentially a threat. uh, it may happen or it may not happen, depends on what are the mitigation or defenses that are already in place, right? I got the whole fittings checked, and it is all tightly there, and there is already a hook also that will prevent the fan from falling, and the ceiling is also pretty strong, so that prevents the threat from happening. But threat is more of a uh, in Hindi, if I use the word ashanka, that something could go wrong. I may miss my flight. That's a threat, right? Now, to prevent that threat from happening, I would have to take actions that I have to ensure that I'm reaching to the airport on time. I'm following all their conversations or the SMSs or notification that is coming from airline, right? So threat itself is not a vulnerability, it's something going wrong. Vulnerability is a weakness or gap in a security program that can be exploited. So when it comes to vulnerability, it is a clear-cut weakness in a security or a program that can be exploited. So if I take the analogy of I missing the flight, that's a threat, right? And I have decided that I'll go on my own car, right? And my car breaks down after like 5 kilometer, and the repair would not be possible. That's more of a vulnerability that is clearly known that the car will break down. Still, I go ahead and kind of start my journey in the car, and then the car breaks down after 5 kilometer, because that's the history, that car can only run for 5 kilometer, or I just have fuel for 5 kilometer, right? So that becomes a vulnerability. That was a weakness, and I didn't did enough to prevent the threat from happening. Exploit is a method or a technique used to take advantage of a vulnerability in a system to gain unauthorized access. So let's take example of the same. I'm missing the flight and I'm going on my own car that I'll park at the airport. and I have ample fuel and my car is good also, but the fuel tank is not protected, and somebody can kind of do a leak so that the petrol runs out. So that becomes an action, right? So the threat was that I'll run out of fuel, and now suppose that there is some problem in my whole system, or somebody deliberately tampers with the tank, that becomes more of a exploitation. So a vulnerability, when it's actively abused, it becomes a exploit. A threat, when you find a weakness that can be used, and that is a weakness in the system, that's called as a vulnerability. And when a vulnerability is getting kind of abused, and that causes a damage, that's what is exploit. Risk is about the potential for loss or damage or destruction of an asset as a result of exploiting a vulnerability. So finally, when something gets exploited because of a weakness, that is a vulnerability in the system, right? What is the potential of loss or damage? That's what is pertaining to risk, right? So some examples from software world. The threat is that your intellectual property is stolen from files or the server. Suppose that you're working for an organization, or you are owning an organization, right? You have some intellectual property, and that can get stolen from the files or the server. So that's the threat. It is not a vulnerability till somebody identifies a weakness in the system, that this is how it can be abused, and this is how things could go wrong. A potential vulnerability is that the files are world readable, right? So it is open to the public and anybody can read it out. So there is not enough check, and somebody can go ahead and modify it out also, or delete it out also, right? So suppose that you are a startup and you're keeping everything in the Google Drive, yeah, and you accidentally share a link that is publicly accessible, whether your employees are accessing or your non-employees are accessing, everybody can see that, delete it out. So that's more of a lack of proper authorization checks. So that's a vulnerability. It's not exploited yet till somebody finds that link, right? So unauthorized users start accessing those sensitive files on the web server due to improper permission settings and exploiting the world readable vulnerability to retrieve confidential data. That's where the the vulnerability gets impacted, right? So it's world readable, so they are accessing. It's a integrity or tampering is not coming into picture. It's just the confidentiality that is coming into picture here, because it is readable, world readable, not writable. People are able to read it out. So that's again the definition of exploit, the third point. And the final one is risk refers to potential for loss or damage. What is the impact of that file getting exposed to the public? Suppose that the file was just in containing uh, the public information already, that what is the contact number of your different offices across the globe, that you already have on your website, right? So that file is not having any other information, just the public information. The loss or damage is nothing. The file is having some of your future plans, and how are you going to do a new launch of a product. That's highly sensitive and confidential information. If the file is containing confidential information about your customers, clients, and their phone number and contact number, that again has a huge risk, involves huge risk and potential to cause larger damage. I'll take a pause, and now we'll see if you people have any question, right? And then we'll proceed to the quiz. Any questions on whatever we discussed so far? Okay, so Alakya, I'll request you to launch the quiz, and people just feel free to participate. There is no marking, there is no ranking. It's all anonymous, and the whole purpose of these quizzes to kind of give you a platform where you can see what you're doing right, and what concepts you need to improve on, work on, right? So that's the whole purpose of the quiz.
I launched now, Sandeep.
Sure, you can launch it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Ladies, feel free to please participate on the quiz.
Alika, we can end the quiz in like next 20 seconds.
Sure, Sandeep. You want me to share the results here?
Yes, we can have a quick discussion on the
Yeah.
results and then we can.
After ending the poll, after 20 seconds, I'll share you.
Sure. I think we can end it now.
Yes. Yeah,
Thanks
I'll share
everyone
the
for
results.
thanks, Alika. So thanks everyone for the participation. So we'll quickly run through the responses, right? So first one is what type of cybersecurity attack specifically targets availability, right? Availability is more of making sure that the server and system is available, it is not going down, not crashing, it is usable. So distributed denial of service attack, DDoS, that primarily impacts the availability. DDoS 100% of the time would be impacting the availability, right? So that's the right answer, and good to see that 75% of you have not you have given the right answer and not given the wrong one. For the remaining people, yeah, just remember that availability is all about denial of service attack. Which aspect of the CIA tried ensure that data is protected from unauthorized access or disclosure, right? So it is not talking about modification. And the question is saying CIA triad, right? So your answer needs to be one of the confidentiality, integrity, availability. CIA just stands for that, right? So I can see that a lot of people have answered authentication, but that's out of the syllabus for this specific question because it is expecting answer only in terms of CIA, right? So I see here as well that majority have given the right answer, confidentiality. So that is right. It is access to the data and disclosure, not modification. So that's why integrity is still not clear whether impact is there or not. It might be that you just have a read-only access or you're seeing the data because it is not talking about tampering. It is not talking about modification, just the access and disclosure. So confidentiality is the right answer. What does the integrity component of the CIA triad focus on in terms of cybersecurity? So I see that 63% of you have given the right answer. Ensure data is accurate and unchanged from its original state. That's correct. That's another positive way to look at it. Whenever you are keeping some data, you need to ensure that the integrity is maintained, right? So to maintain the integrity, you need to build right set of checks, define right set of permissions and rules. Ensuring data is protected from theft or exposure. So yeah, I mean, integrity is more of modification, tampering. So data theft or exposure would not 100% qualify to be impacting integrity. The theft could just be an impact on confidentiality as well, right? Or just the exposure. What type of threat and stride involves unauthorized gaining of access privileges, right? So elevation of privilege for sure. That's the right answer. Good to see 75% of you have given that out. You're gaining access privileges that you are not having. That means you are elevating your privilege. You didn't had any permission. You are gaining something. That's elevation of privilege. In the stride model, which threat is characterized by illicitly modifying data before or during input into a system? Tampering, 75% people have rightly answered. So that's good to see. Spoofing is all about mimicking or mocking somebody's identity. Tampering is all about modification. Which of the following best describes reputation threat as detailed in the stride model? Attacks where user denies performing an action. Yeah, reputation is all about having ample logging and monitoring to ensure that you are able to kind of prove somebody did something, right? So reputation is impacted when somebody is able to take some action without getting caught, or you have being clueless that who did that out. And good to see 68% have given the right answer here as well. What is the primary security concern associated with spoofing in the stride threat model? Unauthorized access to system by mimicking the identity. Yeah, so 84% of you have given the right answer, so that's very good, right? It's more of spoofing is all about mimicking or mocking somebody else's identity. Which scenario best illustrates denial of service attack? A hacker exploits vulnerability in software, allowing them to view confidential client record. So that's not denial of service. That's more of a confidentiality impact, right? An attacker floods a server with so many requests that legitimate user cannot access the service. There you go. That's the right answer, denial of service, right? So that the answer, 78% people have given the right answer. That's heartening to see. What is common cause of information disclosure threats that could inadvertently expose sensitive data? So a well-implemented system patch that unintentionally introduces a new vulnerability, misconfigured security setting that allow unauthorized access to private information, right? So that's the right answer. That's the closest one to the correct answer here. True or false, in risk analysis, vulnerability should be prioritized based solely on the business impact resulting from a potential attack. So this is one question which was little confusing, deliberately put there, and I see that the people who are not in majority here have given the right answer. The right answer is false, right? It's not just the business impact, it's likelihood, and there are other factors. So we discussed about the impact and the likelihood, right? So here you might have missed the solely word. For sure, impact is one of the factor, but it is not the sole factor. So I hope there are no confusions or no questions on this. I'll just take a pause if you have any doubts or if you want me to kind of talk on some concept again, feel free to tell me before I proceed ahead on topics that are more pertaining to certifications and how you can build your career in cybersecurity. I see some things in the chat. Okay, no questions in the chat. That's good. So I'll take a pause at the end. Let me continue with the next topic. Right? Is security important when designing a product? Right? I mean, when you're doing a software design in today's world, is security really important? If it is important, why it is important? So get an understanding. You see, this is a drain that has been created and water is not reaching to it. If this was designed well, it could have met the purpose. There could have been several lakhs of fund that was spent in creating this drain, but all futile because it's not serving the purpose. Same with security as well. That you build a product, your marketing team does a good job, your software development team does a good job, right? You have a very brilliant idea that could be embraced by the customers, right? You have the potential to kind of tap into that market and the customer base, but there is a security issue that brings in a bad name to the organization, right? The whole effort goes in vain. Just in case of this example, that the intent was good, the purpose was clearly known, and it was for something that was going to solve a problem, right? But finally, it's of no use. The cost of fixing defects post production compared to when you fix it earlier, like during requirement architecture or design, is quite high. As you can see, it increases 30x. It's not about software security vulnerability. It is about any functional issue as well, that it is 30x higher. When it comes to security issue, it is 100x higher, right? The reason being, when there is a security issue, you have a PR cost, public relationship, because there is a negative press coverage. You need to kind of invest money in building that trust back. There is a legal cost involved. There is an engineering cost because your engineers were working on developing something that you have committed to your customers to be delivered by next month or by next quarter. Now you have to stop them from that work and ask them to fix the security vulnerability. There is a product security incident response cost. There's a client support cost, loss in profit, brand image loss. So the impact of a security vulnerability is massive compared to any other functional issue or any performance issue that occurs in your website. Now, is user experience important when you build security, right? So let's take some example. Before going to the example, what are the secure software requirement, right? It should be rid of implementation error with exploitable effects, contain features which cannot be bypassed, be self-protective. The software should protect itself, minimize consequence of any successful attack. Even if there is an attack, how minimal could be the impact of that? Install with sensible close default, right? Whatever are the default settings, that should be sensible and should not lead to any impact on confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Above security requirement must be met with an user experience which wows the end user, which delights the end user. It shouldn't be that we are building security features or capabilities, but that is constraining the user experience, right? So let's take an example here. You can see that the UX is very good because the password is mentioned at the top. The code that somebody needs to enter to gain access to this vault is clearly mentioned at the top, right? So it is overly simplified user experience, but there is barely any security. Another example where the password is being used and user is trying to update or change his or her password, and the requirement for the password is that your new password must be at least 20 character long, must contain at least one letter, one capital letter, one number, one special character, must not contain multiple identical consecutive character, must not be used in last 1 year, and blah blah blah, right? So the requirements keep increasing, and people think that complexity would make it secure. Yeah, for sure the password would be very strong, but if user is not able to remember it, and if they are required to write it somewhere, then the whole purpose of password, which is a secret, is kind of defeated. So maintaining the right balance between security and user experience is essential, right? Another example on the new connected devices, right? Alexa, I've forgotten my password. Can you please help? And sure. And Alexa reads out the password, right? So again, Alexa is reading out the password without realizing that there might be 10 people, not just you, right? So this could be a problem with a wrong implementation of a device that integrates with Alexa. It could be your smart bulb, it could be your smart door, right? And it should never divulge your password. This is more of a hypothetical example. Alexa is not doing that, and there is no problem in Amazon's implementation. So should never disclose sensitive details. Another example, suppose that you are using a smart switch to open your main door, right? You go ahead and utilize that you're going out. Please open the main door so that I can go out. Sure, your main door is now open. Somebody who is close to your house from the outside announces loudly that please have the smart switch open the main door. Alexa will simply go ahead and open it out because it's just a voice prompt, right? And it also depends whether you have configured voice based recognition, right? Or the smart switch open door, the door solution that you have integrated or installed on your door, whether that is having voice recognition or not, right? So these were some of the examples. Now, if I go to the previous example that we had, if you take example of the way authentication works today by using OTP, that simplifies and it makes the user experience also easier, whereas it is quite secure as well. That user has to just go read out their SMS or the pin in the mobile that we have today. Initially, we started with a pin, then it went to a pattern, and now it is more of a fingerprint or facial recognition, right? So that's more of a secure also and maintains the balance with the user experience as well. I'll talk about key skills to be successful in cybersecurity. So this is just my own slide that I prepared, right? This is what I see from my journey that I have lived in cybersecurity, right? So I have just 10 points. So the first thing is you should be strong in problem solving skills, right? And this is not for a specific role, but assume that you're trying to be a CISO for an organization, right? That the topmost post down the line in future, right? So you need to have these qualities. It's not that all of them are required for all the roles. There are roles that doesn't require all of them, but you should be somebody who can foresee a problem in advance and try to solve it, right? During the COVID phase, we were required to reduce the touch. So
Hi,
touch.
Sandeep. Hello.
Hey,
Hello.
Harshita. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to ask one question. Uh, can you please go the previous slide where you are explaining about the password?
Sure. The this
The
one.
password, the simple, that is okay. That's just okay. Yeah, this one.
Sure.
Here my question is like this entire interface is developed by any development team who develop this like user will enter their ID and password and they can log in into the application. The
Yes.
same is tested by the testing team, right?
Yes.
That whatever the code has been developed, it is working properly or not. So where the cybersecurity come into the picture here?
Typically, cybersecurity would be a separate team, right? So,
Okay.
uh, I'm not saying that there is a vulnerability here, right? But if you make your kind of security requirements too constraintful for the user, they will not embrace it well, right? So the purpose here that you have, there is no security vulnerability here. What we are talking about is security versus user experience and maintaining the balance. Now, if you make your security something that is not easy to digest for the users, what he or she will do it out that they'll have a password which is 20 character long, right? Because somebody in your organization decided to put forward this as a criteria with so many things, right? And what they'll do, they would start writing it out in some and keep it in their purse or keep it in somewhere, right? That defeats the purpose of the security that we are trying to build out here, right? So the whole goal is that you maintain a right balance. Instead of giving that many criteria, use a multi-factor authentication. Let user set a password which is decent enough from strength perspective, not 20 character long with hundreds of requirements, but say 8 character long with good strength. At the same time, have a multi-factor authentication or just have a OTP based multi-factor authentication. So maintaining the right balance is important. And typically, development team comes into picture for any software. Then this and the testing team does the functional validation. At the same time, right from the beginning, when you started with the development of the software, there should be a cybersecurity team that should review the requirements. Some of the requirements itself are incorrect. So we have to give the feedback to the product management that, hey, this is not the right requirement. We cannot do this. And we have to make changes in the design. We have to ensure that this is not going as it is. And we have to, like, suppose that uh, the product manager says that the password should be stored in plain text and we should be able to read the password in the database, right? Unless there is a business justification, the password should never be derivable. Password is something only known to the user and even the organization that is storing that password. They should not be able to see that out, right? So you should be keeping the password in a hashed manner, not in a plain text manner. Now, if a product manager gives that as a requirement, there should be a discussion with the security team so as to understand if it is really a need or it is something where he's not security having the security awareness and he's just putting forward that requirement.
Okay. Okay.
I hope that clarifies, Harshita.
Yeah. Sure, sure.
Thanks, Harshita. Okay, so these are the key skills to be successful. We're talking about the strong problem solving skills. So you should be good in that. During the COVID era, we were required to reduce our touch surface outside. A lot of people who were like good at problem solving, they started carrying toothpick or matchstick sticks and pressing that the lift buttons or reducing the surface area. So those are like some of the intuitive way of thinking on how to solve problem, right? So just subtle examples that if you have found into such situation and you have been able to kind of find out some solutions, then yeah, cybersecurity would be appealing to you. You should be having the ability to research and learn new things on your own, right? So that's one thing, because there would be a lot of new learning, right? Every now and then there would be a vulnerability that comes into picture, right? We have seen that across the years. We had solar events a few years ago. Last week there was a polyfill JS that got impacted, and that there is a vulnerability in that. A lot of organizations are working on fixing that out. So you should have ability to research, learn new things, bring back that understanding and knowledge, and ensure that you are protecting the organization that you're working for. You should have ability to work independently, right? And you should not require a lot of support from people, because many a times you would be analyzing a vulnerability, and you would be kind of trying to understand whether it is really or really a vulnerability or not, provide guidance and input to the development team, or provide kind of a risk report to the stakeholders or the leadership from the SOC team side, right? In all those cases, you would have colleagues there, but the bulk of work needs to be done by you. So your fundamental basic concepts, if they are clear, then you would be able to kind of quickly work independently and kind of create a report, or be able to communicate to the right people in the right manner, so that they convince that they need to act on it. You should have good verbal communication, because as part of most of the roles, you would be required to do a lot of talking, right? Even if you're not working more on the technical side, but even on the SOC side, if you see something, you have to communicate that to people. So your verbal communication should be there. So should be the written communication as well, because you would be required to write emails, required to reply to external researcher, customers, client. That response might get polished by like communication team or the media management team, right? But again, it has to go in a proper way so that they can further modify. If it is not going in a proper way, they could derive some different meaning altogether that you did never intend. You should have patience, persistence, and resilience. That is very much important, because when you are embarking on this journey, right, don't think that things will start happening automatically. It will take time, but you have to have persistence and patience, and ensure that you're not deviating from the path, or you are not giving up that early. I mean, when I started on cybersecurity in 2010, prior to that, I was not working on cybersecurity. Particularly 2009, I started on cybersecurity. The first vulnerability that I reported in the given website, last time also I told, it took me not few days, not few weeks, but several months, right? But the incremental effort that I was making every day, that was refining my understanding, and it was taking me closer to the goal, right? So you need to have persistent patience and resilience from that perspective. Should have good sound technical skills. Again, remember that what I'm talking is holistic cybersecurity, that you can take up any role, you can be the best hacker. I'm not talking about all the different roles which do not require to that extent technical knowledge or programming skills. But definitely, if you're looking for a topmost job in cybersecurity, sound technical skills would be something that would be required. You should be good in working with teams and in collaboration, because cybersecurity team, as Harshita initially asked that question, that there is a development team, there is a testing team, where the cybersecurity team comes into picture. So the cybersecurity team typically work across the entire organization, not just for one team, but for all the teams that are doing a certain work, be it in SOC, be it in application security, be it in the network security. You would be required to work along with several other teams in the organization, right? And that's why teamwork and collaboration becomes important. You should have ethical mindset, right? Because doing things that you're not allowed to do just because you have the ability, that doesn't mean that you can go ahead and start hacking somebody else's website, which you're not allowed to, right? That way you will become more of a adversary or an attacker or an unethical hacker, right? So be aware that there are legal consequences if you get caught. So if you're like damn good in ethical hacking, where you ensure that nobody can catch you, right? So then you are already in a dark website, or a more of a black hat hacker, or somebody with unethical intent. So you should have ethical mindset. You find a vulnerability in somebody else organization's product or service accidentally or by just doing some basic steps, you should not go ahead and disclose it publicly on a social media. You can utilize their PSET channel, reach out to the organization, give them the opportunity to address it, because the impact of you divulging it to public is massive, right? And it will uh, it will draw eyeballs of a lot of attackers and adversary, and they'll start abusing it and hacking it out. You should have good analytical skill, right? So you should be good at analyzing things. You will get a lot of reports, you'll get a lot of data. From all that report and data, you have to derive meaning, you have to take a call, you have to make a judgment. So all those requires you to have good analytical skills. So these are some of the key skills that I feel is important for being successful as a cybersecurity professional. I'll move along and talk about typical cybersecurity roles, and towards the end we can pause for a question answers. So these are typical cybersecurity roles that we have across the different verticals. So in the application developer, you could be software security engineer, you could be an architect, you could on the incident response and SOC, you could be analyst in the SOC team. You could be incident response engineer when a or external entities and provide be the bridge and the communication channel with the all stakeholders. You could be a manager who's taking stock of all the vulnerabilities from the organization. There are other roles such as source code auditor, who primarily focuses on auditing the source code, compliance auditor, whether a particular application is compliant to a given compliance or not. For example, you are in a consumer space and you have a payment gateway where you are asking consumers to provide their credit card information. So PCI could be a compliance. You can hire a PCI compliance auditor who can guide the team in what are the requirements, how to design, how to segregate different kind of networks to be compliant to PCI. And once those changes are done, you can go ahead and take a PCI compliance. Similarly for GDPR, CCPA, all of them are compliances. There could be IAM manager, that is identity access manager, right? You managing the team. That team overlooks the whole access aspects of the organization or for any product, right? That different user level access and all those. You could be malware analyst, more working on a security vendor, antivirus company, who's analyzing malware and evolving the signature to detect new malwares. You could be on cryptography side, you are a cryptography expert and supporting team in implementing the cryptography properly, forensic specialist in doing the forensic analysis. Now, the topmost role is Chief Information Security Officer, CISO, popularly known as. That is kind of equivalent to CTO or CEO. And many a time CISOs are reporting to CTOs as well, whereas in some cases they are in parallel to CTO as well. So these are typical roles in cybersecurity ladder. What are the security certifications that we have, right? So CompTIA Security Plus gives you a very fundamental holistic understanding of the entire security topic. So whoever is new to the cybersecurity industry, I recommend them to start with CompTIA Security Plus because it doesn't get a lot complex. It is at the initial fundamental level, but it covers a good amount of concepts, right? And it strengthens your foundation on the cybersecurity. Certified Ethical Hacker covers a lot of tools and it is a bit hands-on as well. Whereas OSCP is completely penetration testing. You would have to kind of work on real labs to clear OSCP. Then on the cloud side, CCSK is there, CCSAK again on the cloud. CCSP is again on the cloud. CISSP is more of a holistic. Senior most people do CISSP. It is more on the seniority level. So you will expect most of the CISOs or senior members in an organization would have undergone CISSP. I'll not recommend that for new people to go ahead and do CISSP. AWS certified security specialty and several others on the AWS. Similarly for Azure and Google Cloud also there are certification. Then GSDC is also on certification on the security side. Then CSM also exists. So these are all some of them are on the seniority level. For the new people or the initial people, I'll recommend CompTIA Security Plus. Then go ahead with Certified Ethical Hacker. If you are interested in penetration testing and cracking the network or the boxes, go for OSCP. Cloud side, you can go with CCSK or CCAK. Now, how helpful are certification? That's a common question. I do a certification, will I get a job? No, that just looks good on the profile, and that might give an impression that yeah, person is thoughtful and kind of seriously thinking pursuing a career in security. But you need to still crack interview, and certification will put expectations as well that you have cleared the certification, so definitely you would have this level of knowledge, right? So it helps in looking good in your CV, at the same time drawing attention of the recruiters, right? But when you go through the interview, you kind of have to show your expertise. Okay, moving along. These are some of the hands-on resources or hands-on playground that are available. If you want to learn more on the web application security or mobile or LLM, OWSP is the place where they publish top 10 security threats and how to mitigate them all. You can go ahead and read it out. So even for mobile, they have top 10. Similarly for web application, and for LLM also they have recently released. If you want to learn more on the secure coding practices, then CERT is the page I recommend people. These are some of the hands-on playground that you can utilize, right? So these are some of the applications which are deliberately made vulnerable, where you can kind of learn the concepts as such as OWSP top 10. You can try SQL injection and get better at doing SQL injection or cross-site scripting or cross-site request forgery. All of them you can try from these resources, right? So in some cases, you will get a VM that you have to run locally that will launch a server, and that server you can access, and then you can try to do different type of attacks on that server. So that way, you are doing it all in a sandbox environment that is available only to you, right? And you are kind of allowed to do on these boxes. You don't have to take a permission. If you take example of try hack me, you can go ahead and try this directly, because this is meant for learning cybersecurity. Whereas if you try to do an attack on a reputed bank or a organization, that should not be done, because that is not meant for learning hacking or penetration testing. So I put a disclaimer: hacking, attacking any server or network without prior approval is considered illegal. Please refrain from applying any of the techniques on any server network where you do not have prior approval. So all these, as soon as you go there, they'll put a license agreement, and you are allowed to do attacks on these domains that are meant for learning cybersecurity. On these VMs or infrastructure that will deploy locally on your system, they are belonging to you. Once you deploy a VM on your own machine, you become owner of it, so you're not attacking anybody else's machine, right? How to build your profile in cybersecurity? These are some of the examples. You can write papers on cybersecurity topics and kind of get some name and fame and put that in your CV. You can develop cybersecurity related application and tools and publish it on Git, right? If you feel that you can develop something cool on the cybersecurity topic and that would be appealing to the people. It could be on cloud assessment, it could be on just checking the signature of files, it could be doing some basic security checks, right? You publish it, put it on Git, and kind of a lot of people start liking it out, put it on your CV that you developed that tool. That would look good. You can participate in Bug Bounty. Bug Crowd and HackerOne are two popular platforms for participating in bug bounties. There, they will build up your profile. You will get a ranking. So all those again will help building a profile. Ethically reporting vulnerabilities and getting recognition as part of Hall of Fames of organization, right? So you pick up a organization's product and start analyzing it locally on your machine. It could be any client software, or by participating in their bug bounties that they have published on their website, right? And try to get understanding. Conducting training at popular conferences or as a content creator. So you can be a content creator, start creating training materials or explanation of certain basic topics in cybersecurity. Create a channel in YouTube or any of the popular media channels that we have today, and earn money from there, right? Filing CVs stand for common vulnerability enumerations, right? You find a vulnerability, say in Google Chrome, you report it to Google, and Google awards you a CV. So CV would be a ID that will say that this vulnerability was reported by XYZ, and these are the details for the vulnerability, right? So you kind of get associated with the CV. Thinking of approaches for solving critical cybersecurity problem and filing patents or patent/IPs. That could be the other way, because that would good look in your profile. So these are some of the ways to kind of build your profile. And these are some of the recommended book. The Art of Security Assessment, that's a good one for understanding more on the security aspects. Hunting security bugs is also good. And 97 Things, every application security professional. This is available in our really media platform, and I was also one of the contributor of it. This got published 10 days ago. This book has just gone out. So I was one of the publishers for this book. Okay, so I think that's all I had for today. And now we can open up for question. I think we still have time. I deliberately tried to end earlier so that I give you ample time for question answers. And let me know if you want me to go to any previous slide.
Yeah, regarding reputation, Sandeep, little confusions are there.
Sure, I can just go back to the reputation slide and talk briefly on that from current slide. Sure. So reputation is more about somebody able to do something and say that they didn't do it out, right? So an example could be that I'm just taking an analogy to make you understand, right? That you are staying in a hotel, you have gone on a vacation or a official trip. Staying in an hotel, they give you an access card, and you kind of go out for a while. When you come back, you don't see, the door is locked. When you open it out, you don't see your luggage, and everything is kind of taken off. Now the hotel says that they do not have any idea, they do not have any CCTV footage, they do not log also that if there was another login made to that room, right? That's where reputation comes into picture, that somebody is able to disapproved, or there is no way to prove that something went wrong, and then hotel keeps saying that you only took out your luggage, and there is no CCTV footage either for you or either for them to kind of uh, disapprove or agree to that claim. Similarly, in the software world, right? uh, let's take an example that I go to Flipkart and I purchase things worth 50,000, and then I call Flipkart and say that I didn't purchase them, right? So it might be so that somebody hacked into my account and they purchased it out. Now, Flipkart should have all the details, that from what IP the login was made, which city it was, right? What time this happened. So that's all should be available to kind of protect non-reputation. By non-reputation, I mean ability to prove something happened. Reputation means inability to prove that something, uh, inability to prove something happened. If you're not able to prove something happened, that's where reputation is successful. If you're able to prove that whatever happened, these are the reasons, these are the logs, these are the traces, then the non-reputation is kind of getting protected. Any more clarification on this? Denial of service, do not confuse with reputation, because reputation, we often say that, yeah, it is denial that you did something, but that doesn't mean denial of service. Denial of service is that any application that is available, you're not able to utilize its service. So that's what is denial of service. In case of reputation, like suppose that I go ahead and change your profile picture in Facebook by doing some hacking, right? Or I work for Facebook, I go in the backend and change everybody's profile picture to Mark Zuckerberg's picture. and it causes a huge outrage, and all the users are complaining. Nobody is happy with the Facebook, and internally Facebook is unable to find out why did it really happen, who did that change, who has the permission. So if they are doing proper logging and monitoring, they can see that okay, this was done because somebody replaced all the images in the database. Who is that somebody? From which machine did they log? What time did they log? Right? And what all access they have, are they internal, are they external, right? All that information should be kind of logged to help you in implementing non-repudiation. I hope that clarifies, right? This is another example. You transferred $10,000 $1,000 to another account using net banking and saying to the banks that you didn't transfer, gives me back my money, right? The bank should have ample proofs to say that you did this out. There was a OTP that was sent to your mobile. Now, if your entire account is breached or locked, that's a different thing. But the transaction really happened and it followed all the security checks, and you cannot refute that bank just did that out. So bank should have all that traceability. Okay, I'll move further for any other question. I'm assuming that reputation is clear.
Yeah, clear, Sandeep. And one more doubt is, so the examples, what you said, we will get through only based on experience, like how to divide it.
Based on learning, I'll say, Ashruti, you can get it out because whatever we are telling, right? If you're understanding the concept well and it triggers a bell in your mind that, okay, the server is down, right? Suppose that you try to browse to Aadhaar and it says that I'm busy now, come back later. Availability is impacted, right? Denial of service attack could be, it might be undergoing a denial of service attack. So that you should kind of try to bring it into your life at the moment. Whatever you're doing in the software side, you are logging into your system, right? Suppose that you're logging into your Gmail account by entering your username and the password. You type the password 2 times incorrectly. That's where you are tampering your password. So that modifying the existing password that is correct, trying to enter something else, or you enter somebody else's email address and try to guess their password. You are trying to tamper. And if you are successful, then you will spoof their identity because you will get access to their account. So if you are doing multiple trials with their password, then you're trying to tamper around with the data. If you're able to modify somebody's image, that's what is profile picture, that's what is tampering. So all these concepts should not require that much of experience. It's just that you hold on your thoughts for some time, try to assimilate and embrace the information that you have got, and try to bring it into daily practice for some days. And beyond that, there would not be any looking back. You'll never get confused with any of them. Any other questions?
Theoretically, everything is clear now. What is CIA? Everything is clear. But practically, how can we perform the testing if I say that there is a company XYZ, I want to test their security, how strong it is? How can I perform those in the aspect of CIA?
Sure. So when it comes to performing, you have to develop more hands-on skill set, Harshita. I'll say that the playgrounds that I gave, right? You should practice using them, right? And try to get better at it. Now, the whole cybersecurity is an ocean. So I'll say that pick one end of it and then kind of go in deeper in that direction. Web application would be the simplest. So I'll just say that start with learning web application security concepts, right? Or if you're on the DevOps side, or your interest is on the DevOps side, start learning about the cloud security aspects. Be it for AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud, and try to derive meaning for it and see how that can happen. So let's take example of AWS. You would have to find out S3 buckets path that belongs to an organization, right? If you're doing a security assessment, you will say that, okay, give me what S3 buckets you are having. And then you can try to browse them out and see whether it has public access or not. Even when you are not having access, if you are able to access it, that means that they have made it publicly open, right? So that could become a vulnerability. So we have to get our hands dirty depending on what kind of application you are trying to analyze. For web application, OWSP top 10 will give you enough guiding principle, and hands-on training will come from any of these applications that you use. So I'll just recommend that go through all these because any of these sessions on any of the topics would go for several hours. It will become a hands-on training. So I'll just see if we can include some subtle aspects in the future session on the hands-on as well. But that would be very basic and it would not be that detailed.
Sir, you are not talking about virus. If that is related to cyber security or it is a something, what is that anywhere related to this?
No, these are not virus. These are more of a VMs and applications where you can kind of practice security concepts, right? So if you open these are not virus. If you open Try Hack Me or say any of them, HackerBox or OffSec Labs, they will provide you labs and tell that there is a SQL injection in this particular page. Can you try executing that out? And then it will give you the hints that this is how you can do it. There is a cross-site scripting on this website, and then it will provide you with opportunity to apply the learning or kind of get your hands dirty before you can do it for any organization.
Okay, so these all playground have their procedure, how to my step-by-step procedure, how to perform those testings and all.
Absolutely. So there would be YouTube
Yeah.
videos for all of them that
Okay.
would be available. You can just search, say, if you pick up Metasploitable, you're trying to learn Kali Linux hacking concepts, right? And you pick up Metasploitable. All of them are in different areas. Like this is for web application, damn vulnerable web application. This is more on the Kali Linux side, right? So if you pick this for learning, it would have a lot of tutorials and videos available. But my recommendation would be that try to learn the concepts first rather than finding solutions how to do things, right? So suppose that Metasploitable says that you can access the machine or another box that is running on the same network within the VM network that you have created. Then you can learn of the different ways how you can do it, learn how you can use Metasploit, right? And how to run a scanning using Nmap or Nessus. All those you can learn and then try to exploit. And if you get stuck after initial attempt, then look for a solution. It's more of attempting a maths problem first instead of just going through the solution and finding the steps and then thinking that you have learned the knowledge, right? That becomes just one part of the problem. But when you try on your own, you kind of develop your own thinking and skills. So my recommendation would be that start with web application. Don't go to Kali Linux to start with. Pick DVWA or Try Hack Me, any of them, or any of the Juicebox, Juice Shop. So what will happen that when you download this, it will give you a VM or an interface where it will be a juice shop where you can place the juice order, right? And it will be having a lot of vulnerabilities that you would be required to find.
Thanks, Sandeep.
Thanks, Arshita. Any other questions?
Hello, sir. Just wanted to know what certifications do we need to do for IAM manager role?
Okay, so for IAM manager role, I can give that in the next meeting. I do not recollect. Somebody asked me earlier also, and I think I'd shared. But I believe it should be information security manager. This could be a good one, but I can surely find that out and let you know in the next session.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Or I can pass it down through Alekhya, and she can share it with Aarti. Any other questions?
Please share it with me. I'll forward it.
Sure, Alekhya. Yeah.
So for infrastructure security admin, what type of certifications we can focus?
So for that, if it is cloud-based, you can go for like cloud ones, right? Otherwise, in general, it depends. You can, I mean, to have a fundamental understanding, you can go with CompTIA Security Plus. But if it is specific to, say, Apache or a given tech stack, then you can find specific security best practices that the vendor is recommending, and embrace them out and see if they have any certification. Like Microsoft has certain certification for IS, so those all would be recommended. But
Okay.
that becomes specific to a technology. The ones that I'm putting here, except for the AWS one, those are just symbolic, that equivalent one are available for Azure and Google Cloud, but rest all are kind of generic certification, not pertaining to technology.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Hi, sir. Nick, can you share a screen that was for building a cybersecurity profile?
Sure.
Thank
So
you.
Madhuri, let me go back. So the first one, or should I go to the next one?
What is your fifth one? I didn't understand.
Excellent at written communication, right? So when we are working in cybersecurity, we would have to write emails, we would have to create reports, right? And that report would be viewed
Okay.
by the leadership stakeholders. So we would be, you asked the fifth one, right? Was it the fifth one, Madhuri? Madhuri, you are on mute if you're speaking.
That's right. The excellent written communication with cybersecurity, actually, I'm not getting that point.
No, it is not pertaining to cyber, because see, you have a cybersecurity understanding, right? Now you should be able to express it when you write. If you want to build your holistic profile, like if you consider me in cybersecurity, I am publishing papers also, I'm contributing to the books also, I'm creating reports that goes to my leadership. They look into that. If the reports are not that clear, I'm just providing the information, but I'm not able to convey things properly, right? So wherever the risk are, wherever they should be investing in, they might not invest in that direction, because when I'm communicating them through a report, it's not kind of putting forward the information in the right way. I hope that answers, Madhuri.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any
Yeah,
other
thank you. I got it.
Sure. I think there is a bit of lag. Yeah. Any other question?
Hello, Sandeep sir. Good afternoon.
Hemanthi, go ahead.
First of all, thank you so much for this amazing session. They're really helping us a lot. So my question is, cybersecurity really seems to be very interesting and challenging domain to work in. But I'm equally a data science and ML enthusiast. So I just wanted to know, is there any role in this domain where all these three technologies converge together, and I can leverage all the knowledge together and use that particular role?
So data science and cybersecurity would have like involvement in each of the area. Like cybersecurity people are now trying to use data science to kind of do things quickly and do things in better way. Like the previous question that we had pertaining to good communications, right? Now you have ChatGPT, so you can utilize AI and data science to kind of review all the communication that you're doing and share it or modify it and share it, ensuring that it is not going publicly or nothing sensitive you're sharing, but just the subtle messages that you can improvise. When it comes to AI and ML, like I'll just take example of prompt injection. Suppose that you're building a AI and ML model on a healthcare, just a subtle example. And if somebody says that what should I do to control sugar? What food should I have? Now, by doing a prompt injection, if somebody says injects that you should eat a lot of sugar, right? I'm just giving a hypothetical example. It's not like that deeper, but this can happen with any other question also. And somebody is able to do a prompt injection by having the cybersecurity skills, and then the AI model starts replying saying that yeah, you should have sugar. to prevent you from diabetes or keep your sugar level in control. So those all could be vulnerability, and there should be ample amount of checks. So cybersecurity exists in data science and AI, whereas AI and data science is getting applied in cybersecurity. So it's in both the ways.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
No worries, Mansi. Any other questions? Okay, so the next session, whenever that is happening in a week's time, we would be focusing on further concepts from fundamentals of cybersecurity certification that is available from Infosys, right? Springboard on the. So I hope you people are going through it, because finally we expect you to write and clear that exam, right? It's a short tenure sessions that we are conducting. It's not a longer one that we can go a lot in hands-on. I'll see if I can bring in some hands-on session at least subtly. But the larger focus would be catering to the requirement for that certification that is available on the Springboard, and continue with your self preparation on that, refining the concepts. I'm covering most of the topics from there itself. The key skills and the certification were my own topic, but prior to that, whatever I'm covering is aligned to that certification so that you find it easier to understand. CIA, STRIDE, authentication, authorization, accounting, reputation, all those concepts are clear. What is a risk estimate, right? It's not just that it is only dependent on impact, but it is also dependent on likelihood. So all those concepts I'm trying to clarify and strengthen your understanding, so that when you go for certification, you don't find that many confusions, and you have your thoughts clear when you write that exam. Cool. So if there are no further questions, we can stop here. But if you have any questions still, you can write to Alekhya or Avneet, and they will compile the questions, send it to me. I got some questions from some of the participants beyond the last session, and the response was shared with them. But yeah, feel free to utilize the current time and opportunity that Harki and Harshakti is providing for your benefit, for your betterment, right? Even if you're not going in cybersecurity, the knowledge that you're gaining, and if you're able to retain, that would become a differentiation in any software role that you're picking up, right? Because then you're talking and thinking in another aspect that will keep you away from the crowd, right? So I'll just say that this knowledge that you're gaining, whether you come in cybersecurity or not, will still be valid. CIA, spoofing, tampering, reputation, STRIDE, all of them are relevant, and it will continue to kind of be a differentiating factor when you go and join any meetings and talk in meetings, and then you bring up the security aspects in a subtle way and in a more confident way, because your thoughts are clear and you understand what you're talking about, right? So look at this as that opportunity as well, to make your foundational learning and knowledge on cybersecurity as clear as possible. So Alekhya, I don't have anything further to discuss, and I don't see any other question in the chat, even though I have a question in 13 head, but since I'm new to cybersecurity, so are there good chances of getting job in this field? Yeah, I mean, there would be good chances to get a job in the same field. Into one, it would be considered as a fresher job, right? So yeah, I mean, to start with, when you're starting, it would be a fresher job. That way you can consider. The other way could be that you get a job based on your strengths currently, be it a QA or a developer, and then start embracing cybersecurity as part of your current role, right? When you're already working as an organization in an organization, right, then going in that direction becomes easier. But if you still want to go independently, then you can build your profile, the steps that I mentioned here earlier, right? That how you can build your profile, and then you are kind of already proven, if you are going with all these things, that you are good at writing paper, you have reported vulnerabilities in like other company, then you'll not be treated as a fresher, because you have already a solid profile that speaks of itself, right? So then you can get hired at a non-fresher level. So that was a question from Shobhika. Certification one we already discussed. Yeah, this we went back. Madhuri's question was there. So, Alakya, I think we have covered everything and we can
Yes.
stop here.
Yes, Sandeep. There is no more questions for anything. Thank you, Mansi. Thank you. And your next session will be on 5th July. It's on the topic of cryptography. Okay, please do
Yes.
join. We'll remind you again regarding this. Okay,
Absolutely.
Sandeep.
Thanks,
We'll wrap
Alakya.
up for
Thanks
the day.
everyone for
Yeah.
joining. Happy learning.
Thank you.
Sandeep,
Thanks.
sorry to interrupt. It would be good if you could share this quiz also.
Sure, absolutely. So Alakya, you already have the quiz. If you can send it out.
Sure. Yeah, we'll share that.
Okay, so there is a question from Chaitra. I'm having experience of automation gap. Yeah, I mean, cybersecurity is good because you're good in automation, that you understand scripting. So for you to create a POC or exploit would be a lot easier. So Chaitra, definitely it makes sense, right? And you have to kind of have certain subtle differentiating factors in your profile, right? Participate in conferences that belong to cybersecurity and kind of find vulnerabilities or participate in bug bounties. And with all those, you can kind of venture into cybersecurity. Other way could be that you join a company as an automation expert, and then with the learning that you're acquiring now and even the self-learning that you're going to do beyond this program, you kind of start taking interest and ask the organization or your manager to move you into a cybersecurity role. So